And welcome back, Sarah Hanna with us. George Norrie back with you. Sarah, amazing work here on the color of orange for fall.
Yes, I just love it. I want to tell you that there is also a homeopathic remedy made from the color orange. So homeopathy is, many people have heard of arnica. George, have you heard of arnica? If you fall, you bang your leg.
It's for bruises, right?
Arnica for bruises, broken bones. So the color orange is very interesting because if you're struggling with socializing, struggling with communication, what this taking the little ballies under your tongue will do will help open up to a healthy degree of self-acceptance. It stimulates your appetite for life, heightens pleasure, and helps with your creativity and allow you to have that playfulness and fun back in your life. So sometimes taking this remedy once or twice a year will help bring you back to that place where you can feel more balanced with your self-confidence and your ability to be playful and have fun. I mean, I'm a mom of 7 kids, and I take life very seriously. I do research. I'm an author. I'm always writing articles, and sometimes we really forget that playfulness. And what that playfulness and creativity does is it helps reduce stress, reduces cortisol levels, and we can function better.
Let's go to the phones. John in Wisconsin to get us started. Hello, John.
Hello, George. Hello, Sarah. I love everything Sarah is saying tonight, and I'd like to give an analogy that lines up with Sarah's teaching tonight.
Okay.
This past Saturday, I was at the Eagles concert in St. Paul. The Doobie Brothers opened for the Eagles. Both bands were fabulous. After the 4th Eagles song, Don Henley came out and greeted the audience. And I'll be paraphrasing, but Don basically said, with all these difficulties going on and the frustrations in the world, let's focus on what brings us peace and joy and happiness. And for the next 2 hours, we're going to play you our music. And it was wonderful. And that reminds me just what Sarah is doing tonight. She's bringing us great teachings on colors, on herbal life, botanical plants. There's so much good we can focus on. And if we would do that, I think others would want that same remedy that Sarah's teaching, and we'd have more harmony in our world. So, Sarah, I want to thank you for that. And then I have 2 other quick comments, please.
Thank you
Sarah,
for that, John.
Yes, and Sarah, I want to thank you for bringing 7 children into the world. My wife and I could not have children. 9 years ago, we moved to central Wisconsin. We live on a farm. The house that we're renting, 8 children were raised. Next door to this house, the other brother raised 7 children. Those grandchildren and great-grandchildren are all running the farm. And I totally understand for young couples, it's quite an expense to bring 2 children in the world today. But I want to thank you and your husband for bringing those 7 children into the world. And my final comment is, I wanted to wish you and George and Tommy and the staff and all the great coast-to-coast listeners a safe, healthy, and happy Thanksgiving. Thank you, everybody.
And don't forget to join us Thanksgiving night, John, all right?
Will do.
Thanks. That was wonderful. Really, really wonderful. And, George, as we know, it's so hard in these days to remember that we have to stay balanced. So one of the things I teach my clients is, as the world around us falls apart, it's our job and duty to stay as together as we can physically and emotionally so we can help people around us.
A cooked turkey kind of looks a little golden orange, doesn't it?
Totally does. Totally. With a little pumpkin pie and a little sweet potato, I mean, you've just done your orange thing and you're ready to go.
Interesting color. Well, what is the most powerful color that you would recommend?
It's so interesting because during the break I was, looking up my book where I speak about all the different colors. I speak about blue and black and brown and green and orange and pink and purple and red and white and yellow. And I think all the colors in the world are appropriate for different times in our lives. So we spoke about purple for spirituality and sophistication and authority. So if you feel like you don't have that power that you want to at your work, and I'm not saying a negative power. I mean, if you're the boss and you feel like you're easily pushed around and you know that this is your business and you know how to make sure it functions well, then wearing a purple sweater or a purple shirt is really going to have people around you see you as more royal. And if you're really having a dark, gloomy time in your life, go get yourself a yellow sweater or get some yellow sheets or yellow blankets, which is going to give that vibrant energy of the sun. So we can use colors. Colors are not going to change our reality, George, but what they can do is they can help us function better in the world around us. And it seems like such a simple, inexpensive addition we can bring into our lives.
Interesting. Let's go to first-time caller Katie in Reading, Pennsylvania. Hello, Katie.
Hi, I'm sorry to bother you guys, but when you said philodendrons, the first thing I thought was poison. And before I called, I looked it up, and it says it's toxic to, like, animals and things, and that's all I wanted to say, because sometimes people jump on the gun right away, and they rush out and they do things. And I just wanted to let you guys know that's what I think.
Well, we're not going to be eating philodendrons. Philodendrons are a house plant. If you have children or dogs, I'm glad you brought it up. You want to have it on a higher, like a bookshelf. But philodendrons clean the air beautifully. So I think they're important to have in our house, but that's not a tea I would drink, whereas marigolds are totally edible and you can eat them. So that's a good thing to point out.
It is important to know these things, right?
Absolutely. Well, most of our house plants are not edible. You're not going to be eating a rubber plant, which we discussed also. You're not going to be eating a spider plant. These are plants that are going to clean the air. We can bring bamboo into our house, but house plants are very different than medicinal plants.
Let's go to Frank in Hollywood, Maryland. Hello, Frank. Welcome to the show. Frank? Oh, he's on a delay. Come on, Frank. I'll give you one more second here.
He's got to turn off his radio. We know the rules.
I have to let him go. Sorry, he's going to hear his name now and think, oh, no, what happened? Blair in Phoenix, Arizona. Go ahead, Blair.
Hey, thank you, George. A shout out and thank you, Detroit Lions, for resurrecting the energy for the Thanksgiving morning game.
Oh, my gosh. They are hot, aren't they?
My goodness. Their quarterback is from my class of 33 fathers alma mater, so I'll be tuned in on that morning. And, Sarah, thank you. Colors that stimulate thought forms. You know, there are many different thought forms, and it's a matter of what you want to accept and not accept. You know, if we continue to accept all that's tragic and horrible in the world and continue to ignore those things that are bright and beautiful, thank you, John, we continue to embrace fear and then rather living in love, well, that's what we're going to create. So we need to drop sadness like a stone, literally. Let it drop. And I want you to comment on earth tones, the beige color of the walnut that also resembles the human brain. And I'll take my answer off the air. Happy Thanksgiving, both of you. Bye-bye.
You too, Blair. Go ahead, Sarah.
So we have signatures of plants that do help different organs in our brain. And walnut, as he said, exactly when you cut it open, it looks similar to a brain. So he's correct. And walnuts and other nuts are specifically good fats that help our brain. And the more good fats we have in our body, the clearer we can think. And I want to say that we are surrounded with people that want us to feel terrorized and fear, and rightfully so. In certain situations, we should be fearful. I mean, I'm here in Brooklyn, and being on the trains and the subways are quite fearful. But I agree, any opportunity we can to help bring joy to ourselves and the people around us is just going to benefit the entire world, because joy is also a vibrational energy.
Now, let's next up. Tom's telling me Frank from Hollywood, Maryland is back on. Frank, you there?
Howdy, George. Glad to be back with you. We've got bad weather down here in southern Maryland, pouring down, raining, cold, nasty.
Well, be careful.
George, do me a favor and put my wife, Evelyn, on the prayer list. She has two serious ailments.
You got that done.
All right, and on the color orange, my bedroom has an orange theme. For years, I've had it. My wife wants to change it. I'm color coordinated to a fault, and it drives her up the wall that I'm color coordinated. And one other thing, you look up at that, and you see that white, that the light shining through this white and blue mix is haunting. someone else feel the same way about that.
Did you say the white and blue is haunting?
Yeah, because as George will recall, I saw a vision of a bearded man. It was so vivid. It was about 7 o'clock in the evening, and there was no other clouds around in this sector of the sky. It was sunset.
Well, that's super scary. So maybe if you had a sunset alarm clock, you could put this beautiful orange vibrational energy, and maybe that would be less creepy than what you saw.
Sarah, what are colors to avoid?
I don't think there's any colors to avoid. You know, it's so interesting because I was listening to a color specialist when I interviewed a lot of them when I was writing my book Mootopia, and she was saying you never want to bring brown into your bedroom. It's just not exciting. And I said to her, you know, but brown is the color of the earth, and it's the bark of the trees. And I feel for some people, if they had brown blankets and brown sheets, it would make them feel grounded like the earth. So I don't think there's any bad colors. I think just to be aware of their energy and bring them into your life when you need it. I mean, brown is great, black is great, gray is great. All these colors have their place in the world.
Next up, let's go to Lisa in Texas. Welcome to the show. Hi, Lisa.
Hi. Thank you, George. Thank you, Sarah. I have a very sick kitty, and I'll try to make this as short as possible. And I don't know that, Sarah, that you do this, but she's always had bad allergies, as do I. And they found some flea dirt on her in August when I took her in for the shot for her allergies. And so they put a flea medication on her. And I noticed that she wasn't coming and getting on the bed with me like she normally does. It's on my chest. And then my husband a month ago put it on her again. And and she was losing weight. She just began losing weight. I took her to the doctor last week, and they did a chest X-ray, and they saw a spot on her lung. And you know, you can't do a biopsy on lungs, apparently, for cats. So they just jumped to the conclusion that it's cancer, and they start thinking about their life, and I hate that because I just went through this with another cat last year, liver cancer then, and she's lost 2 pounds in a month. She weighed a little over 8 pounds, and now she's a little over 6. I'm feeding her 5 and 6 times a day, and of course, doctors go one way.
They're like pizza.
And I just think there's a balance between medications and holistic things. And I just wondered what your thoughts were, Sarah.
So there are veterinarians that are also classical homeopaths. So you might want to look that up in your area and find there are veterinarians that use herbs and homeopathy. That is not my specialty, but maybe you could bring the color blue into her life, because blue is calming and healing and ethereal, and I don't know if she likes to sit on a certain pillow. Maybe you could bring some colors into her, because maybe that vibrational energy might help her feel better with her illness.
Yeah, you don't deal with pets, but I would guess the techniques would work the same on a human and a pet, don't you, Sarah?
Yeah, when I was in homeopathic school, we had MDs, we had nurse practitioners. Most of us that did the 5-year classical homeopathic program that I did were all medical professionals, and we had a veterinarian in there, and it was very fascinating. I remember her first name is Jill. You can possibly email me, and I can try to find her online. But she was incorporating conventional with homeopathic medicine as a vet, and that's just fascinating.
Let's go to Carson in Missouri. Welcome to the show. Hi, Carson.
Hey, thank you for accepting my call.
Good to have you with us. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my question was, I was just wondering, like, is it possible that a person's favorite color could kind of tell something about them?
That's an interesting question. What about the person's favorite colors and their personality, Sarah?
Oh, for sure. And if you like a certain color, like get socks in those colors, get pajamas in those colors. If you resonate with a color, you're resonating with the vibrational energy of that color, and don't ignore it. Bring it into your life as much as possible. You know, it's very interesting because I talk about in Moodtopia about depression glass. George, you remember depression glass. I don't want to age us. But during the Depression, they would make the plates and cups and bowls in this beautiful blue and this beautiful orange and yellow. And what they found was that when people were going through the Depression and people really didn't have enough food, that to put their food in these beautiful colored glass, it made them feel fuller, faster, and more satisfied. And a lot of color specialists will say that, let's say your favorite color is yellow, that you should get a glass of water that's tinted yellow and drink your water out of that yellow cup. So if you vibrate with a color, bring it into your life.
I got a friend of mine who does a talk show in Michigan for a number of stations, and he lives in L.A., and he wears an orange jacket.
You see? And Curtis Lewa wears that red hat. So there you go. Yes.
Yep.
You can definitely, when you think about your friends, I have a friend and she's a purple woman. I mean, her laptop is purple. Her purses are purple. We always laugh. So you will see a lot of people that resonate with colors, and good for them. I'm glad they found their color.
How can people sign up for your Moodtopia Academy?
So you can go on my website, sarahhanna.com, and thank you for mentioning it. This was something I've always wanted to do. So what happens is we have 2 Zoom workshops monthly. One, we pick a topic. We just had a topic on sleep. The month before, we had clays, mud, and poultices. And every month, we have an hour to an hour and a half Zoom where we learn a topic. And then 2 weeks later, we have a Q&A where everybody in my school comes on and we can ask any questions about supplements or herbs or books we're reading. And it's a really wonderful, powerful group of people from around the world. And we're really learning about herbs and homeopathy, essential oils, so we can help heal ourselves and those around us. So thank you, George. It's a wonderful, wonderful academy.
We're going to take a short break, Sarah, and come back and take final calls with you in just a moment here on Coast to Coast. If you haven't made the call yet to Sarah, jump aboard and share a story about the color orange. And welcome to Coast. George Norrie back with Sarah Hanna. Sarah, I can't wait until the sunlight comes up and go out and run in some leaves.
Absolutely. It's just going to do you it's going to be so healthy for you, George. We all need to do that right now. Like we've spoken about, we have to find the little pleasures these days. I think it's really important.
Why is the color so important?
The color orange or general colors?
General.
I mean, because it adds sparkle to our lives. You know, I mean, you think about it, a kid's birthday party. If you had, like, brown tablecloths and brown napkins, it wouldn't be exciting. The kid wants the vibrant, the light blues, the light pinks, because it brings energy to the room. So the way our world was created is there's so many colors. There's actually very interesting studies of people that from head accidents lost their ability to view color. And there was an interesting book, the name is escaping me right now, but he spoke about when he went to eat his food, it was all gray. So his green beans were gray, and his chicken was gray, and his potatoes were gray, and he lost his appetite. And when he looked at his wife, she also looked gray, not like gray hair, like just a gray color. He couldn't see the blue eyes that she used to have. So we know from studies of people that lose their ability to view color, they become very depressed very quickly. So I think in these gloomy days, we have to really work hard to make sure we bring the colors that we enjoy into our lives.
Let's go to the phones. Joe in Long Island, New York, to get us going here.
Yeah,
Joseph.
hi, Sarah, I have actually a couple of questions. First, on the supplements, the ginkgo biloba and the French maritime pine bark come from trees, so I'd ask you to comment on that. And also the idea of some people take off their shoes and socks and put their feet on the grass, earthing they call that. And the second question is more on your observations. One is, are some of your clients in this idea of the Groundhog Day, a good movie, where they're not getting flow and they feel they're just stuck in repetition? And also with these devices, you hear people complaining of eyesight difficulties from, or do you see that and any other issues from devices that have small print that they're reading off?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I just did this amazing workshop on sleep, and the woman was talking about how it's important to wear a yellow glass when you're in front of your computers, and they're very inexpensive online, and that she says that it blocks the damage to your eyes because a lot of people, when they're on their devices too long, they get up and they just don't have that great eyesight. So you also asked in the beginning about tree medicine. Yeah, so as an herbalist, we don't just use herbs that grow in the ground. We also use flowers. We use the bark of the trees. We use the leaves. So ginkgo is very interesting because most or a lot of our herbs we harvest in the spring or summer. And ginkgo is interesting because when it grows, it's first a green leaf, and we wait until the leaf turns yellow, and that's when we make it into medicine. So when the carotenoids come into the ginkgo leaves, we feel that it helps more with circulation. Ginkgo is an herb that helps bring blood flow up to the brain, to the tips of our fingers, to the tips of our toes. It helps with concentration, and it also helps a lot with asthma. So it's very interesting. And pine bark, we use a lot of the pine pollen for men that have fertility issues, and the pine, the pine, what are they called? We use those for teas. The beautiful little green that comes out of the trees we also use as a tea in the winter to help with your lungs.
What about orange candles?
Pine needles. Oh, my gosh, that was brain fog. I need ginkgo. Pine needles, which are around in the fall and the winter, make a phenomenal, delicious tea. Yes, go ahead, George.
What about orange candles that you burn?
Yes, so that's another thing I want to discuss. So another easy way to bring orange into your life is just safely burn an orange candle. They're very inexpensive online, and if you're eating dinner or lunch, to have a beautiful glow of orange around you is going to help you feel vibrant and calm. Because remember, orange is one of the colors that has both. The monks are wearing orange to meditate, and we use it to feel more kid-like and have vitality.
On the wild card line, Josie's with us in Virginia. Hi, Josie.
Hi. I have a bunch of things to tell you, so I hope you don't cut me off too soon. Here is what I have to say quickly. One is that the orange is wonderful. My husband had a friend who was very strong on orange. He had a big apartment in Chicago, and I think his bedroom was orange, which I think is a little funny. But in any case, there's a negative aspect to sometimes when you overdo a color. And in the case of orange, it could be a little bit gabby as a person, so you may not want to use too much of it. The yellow was the color, and I was with a class of people, a lot of psychics were there, and it was maybe 15 or 20 people in the room talking about colors and the good parts and the bad parts. I remember the blue part from someone that I knew that was in a mental hospital for depression. She had blue all over her. She was overdoing the blue. She had it all over her apartment, or her house. And so I can't remember the good. There is a good part of blue, too, and I can't remember what that part was. But anyway, it's a long time since I had that class. And we have the red, which is the energy color. The energy of all energies is with the red. and the man trying to pursue the lady in red is pretty much as in songs, and then the orange is the color, and I just said, and then the yellow is I have 2 ginkgo trees. They burst into yellow in the fall. It's just lovely, and that's the color. If you have to take a test, it's a good idea to have some red, the yellow in your person somehow, and the green is for healing, and of course I think that a lot of these plants that we use for healing is wonderful. What I used to do when my child had an earache, take a little garlic and put it in the ear and stuff together with some cotton, and that would get rid of the earache without bothering to go to a doctor and all that sort of thing.
It's so interesting.
I agree with you about
story just popped into my mind. I don't mean to cut you off, but we're talking about the negative colors. So I have to tell you that I had a client that was going through a divorce, and she was very worried because she heard that the judge was a tough, strong lady, and she was a little bit more passive, and she was very concerned. So we went online and we looked up the judge, and the judge was always wearing a red suit or a red scarf, right? So I said to her, when you walk in that court, you cannot compete with that red. So we looked up on a chart and found the color that complements red, and I said, this is the color palette you need to be around this woman. And she told me that she had been so afraid of this woman, but when she walked in the courtroom and she was wearing this beautiful, I think it was like an off-white beige, she just felt more confident. So I don't think colors per se are negative, but sometimes you have to make sure, and George knows being on TV, if the person to the right of you is wearing a yellow and you're wearing an orange, it may look too distracting. Mm-hmm. So I think all colors are beautiful, and I think that many colors complement each other, and that's important to have in mind also.
Let's go to Walter in the state of New York. Hey, Walt, go ahead.
Hey, George. Hey, great show today. Hey, Sarah, I got a question now because you mentioned something about cinnamon being like can lower your blood pressure. Now, how would you take it? Like a cinnamon stick, a ground cinnamon, and put it like in oatmeal or something? What do you do?
So I can't diagnose or treat, obviously, without knowing your history. So you do have to talk to a medical practitioner. But cinnamon is used to lower blood pressure. I tend to suggest using the cinnamon capsules. The typical dosage, again, I'm not prescribing for you, is 1 to 2 capsules twice a day, depending on your size, and that's usually very successful. If you are taking a lot of medications and don't want to take the cinnamon in capsule form, you can sprinkle it over your cinnamon, you can over your oatmeal, you can sprinkle it over your toast, but cinnamon really has a history, especially in Chinese medicine. We use it all the time in blends to help lower blood pressure. But one of my favorite ways of helping is with hibiscus tea. Hibiscus comes in all colors. Hibiscus flowers are yellow and white and orange and red. And hibiscus tea in clinical studies can really lower the blood pressure, and that's another delicious tea. Add a little bit of honey to it, and it just is delicious.
Sarah, how far ahead are Chinese herbalists from us?
So we have in America Western herbalists, and in China we have Chinese herbalists. Now, the tradition of Chinese herbalism is that they have pre-made combinations, and the Chinese practitioner has to decide which combination that's pre-made the person fits into. Whereas Western herbalists, when they meet a person, they come in with a clean slate, and I'm going to make an herbal mix for them. So I don't need someone to fit into a category or a formulation. I'm going to formulate for them, because people can be overweight, sweaty, depressed, but have a great sense of humor, and the next person that comes in can be really skinny, really on edge, really hyper, and doesn't like to eat food. So those two people, even if, let's say, they came in for depression, would need 2 different blends according to who they are physically and emotionally.
Let's go to Lori in Chicago. Hey, Lori.
Hey, George, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
And hi, Sarah. This is very interesting, especially since I only have LP, so I can't see colors. But I imagine the positiveness about different colors, like purple is really refined and positive, and orange, I never thought about it, but the fruit is wonderful, and it can brighten your day just to eat it, because Walgreens doesn't sell very many fresh fruits, and I have to go elsewhere for bananas and oranges and stuff like that.
There's a very interesting study that I don't have in front of me, but they took blind people that could not see, not people that just couldn't see color, and they shined different color lights on them, and they could tell when the light colors changed because they felt the vibrational energy. So even if you can't see the colors do have an energy, and that blind study was just so fascinating to read.
Sarah, almost out of time. Let's squeeze one more quick call. James in Virginia. Hey, Jim, go ahead.
Thanks, George. Hey, Sarah. Hey, everything you're talking about tonight, I remember God's rainbow. It's his rainbow, so he gave us, he loves colors, and he's letting us know how it improves our mood just seeing it in after it rains and all that. And also, I wanted to point out one more thing. I want to ask her about ashwagandha, but the people that called in about their cat, I had a cat that was dying of feline leukemia and about two other things, and they wanted like $500 just to get him through, and they made me last till Monday. It was Saturday. He lasted over 2 years, and he lived to 24 years old. And Proverbs 17, the Lord put this in my mind because I read it and it didn't read the same way. But when I went back later, I realized the Lord made it easy for someone even as stupid as me to understand it. It said compliments are medicinal. And that's that if you improve the animal's mood and then the animal feels like he's there and he's helping you and you need that animal and you're saying how beautiful his fur is and how gorgeous they are, and to keep complimenting the animal, sometimes that can overcome some of these diseases cats have.
Interesting, Jim, and you're not stupid.
Very smart man. That's what I was going to say, George. And don't you think right now, with the world the way it is, that we need to be complimenting each other and being thankful to each other? That's such an amazing point you brought out, and it's really important, and it'll help people around us that are really struggling.
Sarah, give out your website and where people can get your book.
Yes, so my website is sarahchana.com. That's SARACHANA.com. And remember, there is a free handout for all the Coast to Coast listeners, and you can get my book, Moodtopia, on Amazon and all the other book retailers online. And I really want to thank you, George, and I want you to keep me updated as to how your next week goes, just thinking and including some orange in your life.
I'm going to have orange leaves all over the place tomorrow. Thanks, Sarah. For Adam Thompson, Tom Danheiser, Dan Galante, Lisa Lyon, Lex Lonehood, Sean Ladisor, Stephanie Smith, Chris Burrows, Tim Banal, George Knapp, and Ian Punnett. I'm George Norrie, somewhere out there on Coast to Coast AM. We'll see you on our next edition. Until then, be safe, everyone.